has overcome, yes, he has overcome. We will not be shaken, we will not be moved. Jesus, you are here, carrying our burdens, covering our shame. He has overcome, yes, he has overcome. We will not be shaken, we will not be moved. Jesus, you are here. Oh, say, and I will lay it. Overcome, yes, he is overcome. We will not be shaken, we will not be moved. Jesus, you are here. So I will shout it out, say
God is fighting for us, pushing back the darkness, lighting up the kingdom. In the name of Jesus, we will shout it out, shout it out. God is fighting for us, lighting up the kingdom. Shout it out, shout it out. Shout it out loud, shout it out, shout it out, yeah. Thank you, Lord. So tell me, who can stand before us when we call on that great name? Oh, Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus. Oh, we have the victory. Oh, we have the victory. It's in the name of Jesus. Come on. In the name of Jesus, we have the victory. Come on, take it back. Here we go. In the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus. Satan, you have to flee. Oh, tell me who can stand before us when you call on that great name. Oh, Jesus, precious Jesus, we have the victory. In the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus. Yeah. So in the name of Jesus. Yeah. Say it. So tell me who can stand before us? That great name. Jesus, precious Savior, Jesus. Oh, we have the victory. We have the
Good evening, KLM family. How's everybody doing this evening? She felt that thing at the end, didn't she? Listen, here, I am grateful to God that He has the victory. And because I am with Him, I'm on His team, I am His child, then I've got the victory. And consequently, we family. So that means you have the victory too. So good evening, everybody. I am glad that you all chose to jump in and join with us tonight for our fireside chat Bible study tonight. So glad to see everyone online. Good to see you, Cassandra, Miss Anita, Miss Annette, Miss Cassandra, Miss Mary, Lewis. I see you, Brother Vic, Miss Kim. Good to see everybody jumping on tonight. Listen, as you guys jump in, like we always do, say hello to someone, greet somebody, but don't forget, go ahead and share, right? Share tonight's Bible study, tag somebody in the comments. If you feel like, one, that God has been talking and God has been blessing you, then why not? Why wouldn't you share that? But listen, I'm telling you, I'm excited about what God has to say tonight. As I've been just, I keep telling you guys that I'm not always the best. I've been trying to kind of look at big picture. Right. I keep trying to look back and say, what has God been saying over time? So the reason for that is, y'all, because I can be real linear focused, right? Like if I got a project that I'm working on, I'm locked in, but I miss sometimes the bigger picture. So I've been forcing myself to have a bigger view of life and things. And listen, I'm excited, but before I get ahead of myself, slow down. We got time. Just want to continue to say hello to everybody. Hello, Miss Shirley. See you, Minister Kim, jumping on. Good to see you tonight. Miss Crystal, good to be glad you're with us. Listen, just a couple of things before we actually jump into the word itself. Now, I'm going to explain more of what I was talking about. Y'all see in a minute. But listen, this Saturday, we've got 8 a.m. prayer is going to be online. We're back online. So listen, please jump on, join us this Saturday at 8 a.m. for prayer. Prayer has been phenomenal. Now listen, I feel like I've been missing a little bit, right? I haven't seen everybody's faces, seen your names, but I just haven't been, was under the weather a couple weeks ago, so I haven't been able to see everybody. And I feel like I'm just missing out, you know what I mean? But I can't wait to be there on Saturday again. And then listen, this Sunday is a special Sunday for us because we've got a friend of the ministry. He's already been with us virtually, but now we get a chance to have him in the building. We have with us this Sunday, Pastor Charlie Howell III. He is going to be Apostle Charlie Howell III. He is going to be in the building with us all the way from North Carolina. Now, listen, if you've been with us in prayer, then you've seen his face. You've seen his face. You've heard his voice. And I'm telling you, you don't want to miss him actually physically in the building and to get a chance to worship with us together. So listen, this Sunday, Apostle Charlie Howell III is going to be in the building. So if you can make it, if you have a desire to be there, then go ahead and join us in the building. And I'm saying this even I'm telling you, not just because of him. I believe who he is, and I appreciate what he's already brought to us in times past. So I'm waiting to see what he's going to do. But I also just believe if we come looking for God, watching for God, asking for God, chasing after God, then God does a thing. He shows up, right? He's faithful to his word that he says he is enthroned on the praises of his people. So he'll be there just like we want him to. So listen, come, this Sunday is going to be an amazing, amazing, amazing time. So you don't want to miss it. And let me see, am I missing anything else? No, I'm not missing anything else. So let's go ahead and jump into what our word is for tonight. So listen, if you guys already know, if you see me looking back and forth, trying to check on your comments, my Bible's over here. So bear with me if you see me looking off anytime at all. All right. So tonight, well, first, let me I was in one of those moments where like I heard God say something that just didn't make sense, right? I think we've all had those moments where it's like he's talking and it didn't make sense. So like I told you earlier, that my thing is that like when I'm working, I'm focused on something, that's all I see. So for tonight, right, I heard a message and it's nothing clever. It's nothing amazing. It's not a whole bunch of tricks and I don't have a crazy weird title. Like literally I got one word for everybody tonight. But here's the thing. I heard the word and that was it. And I'm like, where are you going? What are you after? What are you looking for? And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And so I'm in trying to see the bigger picture. I backed up. I said, okay, let's go back. What has God already been saying to KLM? Right? What is he already now? Remind you, I'm focused on my assignment for tonight, right? Which is Bible study. But I'm asking, and I hear what I believe he's saying, but then I'm trying to figure out how does that make sense? So I say, what have you already been saying to KLM? Well, I go back to last week. And Minister Vic talked to us about remaining focused, right? He talked to us about keeping our focus on God. And I was like, okay, all right, I hear you. I still don't get the bigger picture. So then I go back to the couple weeks that I wasn't able to be in the building and I'm watching the messages. And I go back to the first message of 2022. Pastor Dorian said, she preached a message that said, lighten up. Right? She came out of Hebrews 12 and she was talking about letting go of the weights and the sins, right? And so she said, lighten up. And then Minister Vic said, focus. And I'm like, all right. But then the beauty of technology, I rewind even further. And Pastor Dorian is going through the scripture. She's reading the scripture. And so tonight we're going to use the same text that Pastor Dorian used on the 2nd, right? January 2nd. We're going to go back to that. It's Hebrews chapter 12, okay? So ride with me over to Hebrews chapter 12. Now, I'm going to do my best to stay in my lane, and we're going to leave what Pastor Dorian did alone because that was enough. But tonight, we're just going to use the same text, and I want to explain what I feel like God says. So what I heard God say was run. Okay? So I need you to type that in tonight. I need you to say that out loud tonight. I need you to hear that in your own heart, in your own mind. I need you to audibly say, run, right? Say, run. I need you to say, run. Type it in, run. Put that little man with the emoji, run. I need somebody tonight, the instruction, the encouragement. The only thing I got to give you is run. So now let's go to our text, right? And it'll prayerfully all make sense here shortly. All right. So Hebrews chapter 12, and reading out the NIV, it says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. Now, remember I told y'all, right, before, when I read text, I try to see it as a picture, right? So in my mind, this is one of the greatest movie scenes ever. Right? When he says, therefore, since we are surrounded. Now, this is on the heels of Hebrews chapter 11, right? So Hebrews chapter 11 is this whole hall of faith. He's talking about those who came before. And he says, by faith, Abraham, and by faith, Noah, and by faith. So we've walked through the men and women and this hall of faith. And then he comes on the next chapter and he says, therefore, since we are surrounded. Now, these are our witnesses, right? These who are already enshrined in the hall. I see them. And so when he says we've got this cloud of witnesses, for me, what I see is a stadium, right? I see I see this stadium filled with people. Now we're in Michigan, right? So U of M, one of the big house, they call it, right? Because it holds some of the largest crowds for a college football game, 150,000. Now imagine a lot of us have been to those games or some kind of games where we've been a part of this massive crowd. But how many of you have ever not been a part of the crowd, but been the attention of the crowd, right? You're not a part of the frenzied, the fray and those, cheering and chanting. You're not those. You are the one that is now being chanted and cheered for. This is what I see, right? So I see walking into a stadium filled and they're cheering and they're chanting for me because I'm the one now on the field. So this is my picture. So I just had to set it for y'all because this is one of the dopest texts to me because of the picture, right? Like he says, and now since we're surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, next thing, throw off everything that hinders and the sins that so easily entangle. Now, Pastor Dorian dealt with this, so I'm not even going to handle this at all. But idea, right? Again, for me, I'm seeing a stadium, so I'm seeing an athlete, right? So I see that as the training. Right, I see that as before my event, before I get set to do whatever I have to do. If I've got excess pounds, they've got to come off. Right, if I've got some bad habits about how I do some things, I've got to deal with those bad habits. Right, as a football player, I used to have a bad habit of what my coach used to say of taking a false step. Right, so I'm moving my feet, but I didn't cover any ground. And he was like, this is a bad habit. You've got to get out of bad habits. So it was practice that was used to get out of bad habits so that when game time came, I can do the right thing. Okay, so back to it. So weights, sins, get them off, handle, right? And then he says, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and the perfecter of faith. Okay. So for me, I'm saying, okay, God, I hear you say run, but how does that make sense? So first, he's talking to me about what run means, but then I'm like, but I don't see no Bible. So how are we going to do that? And then how does that fit into what you're saying? And he says, well, pay attention. Notice Pastor Dorian handled the lighten up. Mr. Vic was talking about focus last week. Right. And that's the second part, says fixing our eyes. So I'm like, OK, so you gave me the middle, we're on this run. And he was like, listen, Pastor Dorian. And then he says, OK, so you got January 2nd and you handled last week, Wednesday. So now let me bring you back to this past Sunday. So this past Sunday, Pastor Dorian talked about being ready to break out. He was like, Vic talked about being focused. Because when you're getting ready to start a race, your focus has to be on the starter, right? Again, this is the imagery I'm seeing in Hebrews 12. So you just got to bear with me with the analogy tonight. All right. So if in the race, there's a starter, and before you can get started, your focus has to be on him, because if your focus is anywhere else and you're not paying attention, you'll inevitably do what's called a false start. Now, the problem with a false start is that the false start gets you disqualified and kicked out the race. So their focus has to be on the one starting the race, because the one starting the race is the one who executes the authority of the line. Okay, hear me. Your start line, every race has a start line. Every race and every runner knows that it's my job to be behind this line until I hear go. If I leave this line before go, I'm no longer part of this race. Okay? Some of us last year, started this year, were frustrated because we were at the line. We were frustrated because we felt like we had everything in hand, like there were ideas and there were thoughts of what was next, of what we wanted to do, what we wanted to see accomplished. And there was a level of frustration that you couldn't necessarily figure out. And the problem is because we were waiting on something. We had to wait and had to have our focus correct so that we could start in the right timing, because a misstart, a false start gets you kicked out the race. And if the goal is to win, then God is never going to set us up for failure. Okay. So going back, we're at the line, and a lot of us experience frustration at the line because we felt like we were being held back. Now, was self-inflicted. Let's just be honest, right? Some of it was we had not properly trained, so he was giving an opportunity for training to take place, i.e. what Pastor D said on January 2nd, lighten up your load. It's time. Right? It's time to let go of sins. It's the time to let go of those weights. It's time to let go of not only the things that weigh you down, but the things that intertangle with you along your journey, not because you can't make it with them, but they're slowing you down. They are taking away from your productivity, and they are inhibiting your ability to exhibit maximum effort. And let's be clear, to exhibit maximum kingdom in the earth, right? So let me help us really quick. Pause, pin, jump back. Everything I'm talking about tonight absolutely refers to the things that we do inside the church, right? The four walls, our opportunities, way we serve. But let me help you. Like tonight is really about those things that don't show up inside the four walls. Right? Tonight is really about the kind of God who is interested in your holistic life and is now trying to get us to move forward in every area of life, because the kingdom is not meant to, the kingdom doesn't shine the brightest. It doesn't have the greatest effect inside the four walls. The greatest effect of the kingdom is when those who are kingdom citizens are shining in every single sphere of influence in every single place that they go. That's how the kingdom shows forth its influence. So I know I'm going to be talking about some things that are just going to be particular to church, but I need you to expand your heart and your mind tonight, because sometimes, and the truth is, a lot of our frustration is because we feel things that are meant to happen outside the walls. And we're trying to figure out how to squeeze them in a box. When God has said, I've done away with the box because I need you to be in the world and draw them into me. Okay, so breathe, take a minute. I haven't forgot where I'm going. Tell yourself again, it's time to run. Time to run, time to run, time to run. All right. So it's time to run. So we felt frustration being at the line. And last week when Pastor D told us it's time to come out, this past Sunday, she gave us the authority to run and start. That was the starter's pistol. That was God saying, get out. That was God saying, go after what I've called you to. And so y'all got to understand, for me, like if it doesn't fit the overarching theme, then my worst fear is to sit here and try to make up anything. Right? It's my absolute worst fear, and I'll never do it. I'll stand here and we'll have a conversation about paint drying before I do it. Right? But I'm saying, God, you're saying run. What does that mean? And how does that fit in the context? So then he showed me how it fits into our overall context. Now let's talk about what it really means, right? To run. To run means to do absolutely whatever you know you've been called to do. And listen, for some of us, yes, it's a business. It's a new endeavor. It is the starting of a nonprofit. For some of us, it is finding an area of gifting, of service in the church, and it's finding something to do. For some of us, it's that new hobby that he told you to pick up that you've just been putting off to the side. It's that, right? For some of us, it is traveling. For some of us, it's learning an instrument. For some of us, it's the next book we're supposed to read. Hear me. I know that might sound strange. I know that might sound weird, but watch this. There is nothing that God puts in our life that he doesn't use to grow us and to mature us. And in whatever he's using to grow us and mature us, he knows how it will also fit into the rest of the game that he's got us playing. All we have to do is execute the thing that he has placed into our hands at this moment. So whatever your run is, you know what it is. And here's what I've been learning about God, right? That success in God and advancement in God follows a pattern, but the particulars he'll give to us as individuals. Right. So the pattern is that we run, right? He's now told us to go and we can move forward in whatever he's called us to. But the particulars of what your lane mission will be won't be mine. And I can't get them for you and you can't get them for me. And this is the beauty of why we have to now go to him to get our source and our understanding of what are the particulars that you want me to follow. Now, we feel that passion, though. And you know and you feel whatever he's calling you to. Why? Because your heart is wired to it. The Bible says that our hearts are wired for eternity. So we're wired to feel that pull and that call of God into something. And that feeling and that call and that pull can be scary and it can be exciting all at the exact same time. But whatever he's calling you to, this is your moment. This is your season. This is your time to run. Now, back to our text. He says, still in verse 1, right? He says, and let us run with perseverance. Now, this is where, for me, I get the uh-oh. Uh-oh. He says, run with perseverance. Because what he's telling me is that the road ahead isn't easy. That your run isn't just going to be a jog in the park. Your run isn't going to be something that you can do with very little effort. Now, don't get me wrong. When we hear that gun, we are fully inspired and we take off. We're excited and we're moving and we got it. But in the natural course of a race, fatigue sets in. So we've got to learn how to press past fatigue. And the thing about it that I liked when he was going through the text, he says, listen, he says, throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. Why? Because you got enough coming ahead of you. You don't need to bring any extra baggage. There's going to be enough to persevere through that you don't need to bring anything extra to the table. Right? So this is why we got to lighten up so that we can run and persevere, because we've seen a lot of people break out and run short distances really. You see them take off and they run short distances really well. But once we get past their comfort zone, they're no longer in the race. Now, I'm gonna tell you a little thing, right? My cousin is 3 years younger than me. He is a far better athlete than I ever was, okay? I've said that time and time again, but I'm older, right? So I can't ever let him up. So this one instance, I went back home, came home from school. He was training. We ran a race, okay? We ran this race. I'm back from college, so he's probably a junior or senior in high school. No, junior in high school. And I literally beat him by this much of him. When I say I crossed that line, this far ahead of him. Now, the thing about it was, like, this is my cousin. He's striving to beat me. His whole thing was to beat me. But in deciding what race we were going to run, it was my decision to run a shorter race. Because here's what I know. I don't have the capacity to keep up with him in a longer race. So we're indoor. He wants to run a 60-meter race. I say, no, we're going to run a 40. Why? Because I might hold off long enough in a 40, but at 60, he's got me. And I'm going to tell y'all that was the last race we ever ran, so that I ended my career against him undefeated. Absolutely. You already know I had to end undefeated. But I was also clear on what kind of race I needed to run, because I was clear on what kind of strength I held on to. Sometimes in life, we don't know the distance of the race. So all we're called to do is persevere. And I know that that sometimes seems hard, but we've got to learn how to run even when we're tired, right? Even when the excitement of whatever we started has worn off and the actual workload of it now steps in, we've got to learn how to persevere in our running. Right? We can't quit and pull back every time it gets hard. And hear me, I'm not blaming on anybody. I'm talking to myself just as much as I'm talking to anybody else. Because if I'm honest, like I'm just for myself in these last 2-3 days, kind of coming out of a personal funk that I had. Right? And it was, I got to keep running even though I'm tired. I got to keep running even though it doesn't always seem correct. I just got to keep running. Right? So he says that we've got to run and we have to persevere with perseverance. Right? And watch here. Here's the piece I love. He says, run with perseverance the race marked out for us. So let's just say it how we say it today. Run in your lane. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Now, this is also the beauty of the analogy of the race, right? Because as we step to the starting line, we're all given a lane. And do you realize that in a sprint, if you run outside of your lane, one leg, 1 foot on that line, you are disqualified. Why? Because it is your assignment to stay in your lane and give everybody space to accelerate and run as they run freely. So it is everybody's assignment to run as they're supposed to run in their lane. So he says, run with perseverance, the race marked out for us, for you, for me. Find my lane and do that. Because in my lane, I'm going to run in my race my way. Now this, so I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, he's saying, run in your lane with perseverance. So no, in your individual race, you might get tired. You're going to face obstacles. You're going to have to press forward. So this is not, let's say, a short sprint, right? And this may not even be a marathon. You might be involved in a Tough Mudder. I don't know if you've ever heard of a Tough Mudder, but these are like 5K races that have obstacles also in the middle. They have pools of mud and things you got to climb over, climb under, ropes, and all of this along a 5K journey. So you might be involved in a Tough Mudder. Somebody might, this next leg and this next assignment that you have to run might be a sprint to get you to the end goal. Whatever it is, run your race with perseverance, but stay in your lane. Run your race. Because it is imperative that you run your race, because there is an individual responsibility to handle your business. I have to handle my business in my lane, do my thing, because if I'm doing my thing, that's how I give back to the team. Again, pause. Track team. Track is an interesting sport. The dynamic of it, because all of the events are individual events for the most part. There are a couple races where you've actually got a couple people who have to take place, but most events are individual events. So every person on the team trains in their events, does their thing, they run their races, and they do their absolute best in their lane. But when we go to kind of crown a winner, this is what he had me do. Remember, I told you in the beginning, I can kind of get narrow focused. But what he can have us do is say, step back. Look at the whole field. See, because sometimes we're on the field, right, with that cloud of witnesses cheering for us, we don't have sometimes that same vantage point. But if you've ever been in the stands and you've been able to look down at the field, you get a chance to see everything that's happening. Y'all rocking with me? You tracking with me? So now watch this. If we're focused and winning in our lane, and we're focused and we're winning in our races, as we pull back and begin to see the bigger picture of what the field actually looks like, we're going to find that we've got many people running individual races, many people excelling in their individual events, many people winning in their overall lanes. And then when you look at the scoreboard, what it will say is the kingdom is advancing. The kingdom is scoring. The kingdom is winning, because now everybody is playing their role and we are individuals in a collective of a team. All right. I don't know about you, but that is good to me, because here's the thing. Even though I've got an individual race to run, I still have teammates who are running their race, who should be and have to be encouraging me in mine while I encourage them in theirs. And if I can help you train, I'll help you train. If I can help take something off your back, I'll take it off your back. If I need to pray for you, if I got to fast for you, if I've got to talk crazy to you, if I got to talk hard to you, if I got to give you some straight truth and some accountability, I'm going to help you train and take off those weights, lighten up your load so that you can run your race most effectively and actually persevere through every hard time, up, down, left, right. You can persevere so that you can run your race. And here's so that you can run your race. Y'all, it's time to run. It's time to run. It's time to run. There's nothing else to do. We're in this moment. We're in this season. We've got to capture it. It is time to run. Time to run. Time to run. Time to run. Oh my gosh, I think these people turn on the heat in this house, y'all. But it is time to run. Absolutely time to run. All right, we're not done. Let's go back to our text. Now, remember, all right, so we are, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us throw off every sin, everything that hinders, and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of God, sat down of the right hand of the throne of God. This right here is so dope to me. So when we're running our races and we're having to persevere, how do you actually continue so that you can finish? How do you press through that, the fatigue? How do you press through the obstacles? How do you press through the struggles? How do you press through having to even start over a race? How do you press through having stopped in the middle of your race? Well, he says, again, like Mr. Vic told us last week, it's about focus. So he says, focus. He says, this time, he says, fix our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. So I had to kind of sit back and try to figure out what's that pioneer, right? Because pioneer, you don't call a person a pioneer who created a thing. You call a person a pioneer who is one of the first to embark on a thing, to go into a space, to accomplish a thing. That's a pioneer. And then he says he is not only the pioneer, but the perfecter. How does Jesus become the pioneer and perfecter, right? I'm telling y'all how I'm thinking. Pioneer and perfecter. He says he became the perfecter of faith, the pioneer of faith, because he was the first to walk as man, fully endowed, Holy Spirit inside, following the pathway of God, following after the teachings of God, ready to face death, burial, and be resurrected. See, he's the first, he's the pioneer in this way of living. right? That's why he is our example. That's why he is who we follow in everything that we do, because he is the pioneer. He's the first one to completely walk this way sinless. He's the one who, the pioneer, the first one to walk this way guiltless. He's the first one to walk this way fully obedient, submitting to all of who God and what God commanded. He's the pioneer, but he perfected it in that he didn't just do it until death, but through his resurrection now, he has attained a new life that we all have access to. So Jesus is the pioneer and perfecter of faith, not of our faith or the faith, of faith, right? The desire, the belief in ability to trust in God to his desired end. He's the pioneer and perfecter. And watch this. So since he's the pioneer and perfecter, how did he do it? And this is how he did it. He says, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. He didn't focus on what was coming. He focused on what was to come. Say that again. He didn't focus on what was coming. He focused on what was to come, right? He focused on what was greater. So it says that for the joy, he endured the cross. So when Christ was going to the cross, what he had to imagine, what he had to focus on was the joy that was going to come after. Right? He endured the agony of pain of sin. He endured the beatings. He endured the mocking. He endured the people walking away. He endured the betrayal. He endured the nails. He endured the suffocation. He endured the bleeding. He endured it all, not just to get through it, not just because he was told to, but because he focused and said, when I am done, there's a day coming when I will be resurrected, seated by my Father, and my sons and my daughters, my brothers and my sisters will all reign with me. So he focused on the joy that was to come rather than what was coming. He focused on what was greater. So when we get tired as we're running, when we're pushing and we're trying to figure out how do we really get through, we've got to back up from our own individual races. We've got to stop just focusing on what's beating us down and what's hurting and how it's not necessarily working the way we want to. We've got to pull back. Right? And when we can pull back and we get a chance to see the bigger picture, look for the greater good. Look for the greater goal. Look for what is happening in the kingdom and how is the God of heaven edified? How is he glorified? How is this bringing him glory? Because if it brings him glory, it's going to be for my good, so it'll work out in the end. And when you pull back and you look and you get to see what's happening, you'll see the kingdom is advancing, and I'm telling you, when you get to see the bigger picture and when you get to see God's hand at work, it is encouraging to see how he moves for your brothers and sisters. It's encouraging to see him delivering. It's encouraging to see him giving what they need. It's encouraging to see him be provider. It's encouraging to see him be healer. It's encouraging, and so it encourages me to continue in my own lane, because one day there is a prize to gain. I got people cheering for me now, but wait until I get to join them. Wait until we all get to party and boogie together. Man. But to get to that, we have to run. So here's what I'm telling you. Here's for all of us. It's the word, and I'm out, y'all. They got this heat on like 90 and they're gone. But we got to run. It's time out for fear. It's time out for self-doubt. It's time out for, you've gathered all the information. You've looked at every option. You know what the colors look like. It's time to pull the trigger. It's time to get up and do what you've been called to do. It's time to dip. If it's time to work harder, then work harder. If it's time to give more, then give more. Whatever it's time for, God has already been talking and you already know what it is. It is time to run. because it is time for the body of Christ to stand up, and it is time for the kingdom to advance in absolutely every area of human living. It's time to run. We got to run. We got to run. We got to run. And I'm telling you this, when you see your brothers and sisters on the street, when they get to looking down and they don't really look, or you don't think they're moving towards the goal, you don't have to say much. Just hit them with a run, right? From across the street, you encourage them. You just tell them, run. We got to encourage each other while we're running, because there are individual races, but y'all, we on a team. We in this together. I need you to be the absolute best you can be. You need me. In case you don't think so, you may not realize it, but you do. And I need you. So we got to run. We got to encourage each other to continue running for the joy that's coming. And here's the beauty of it. The beauty of who God is that we're going to see glimpses of that joy. We don't have to wait until just the end and until God comes and returns and cracks the crystal sky. We don't have to just wait for that, but we're going to see wins on this side. We're going to see our wins on this side, and we'll get to cheer for one another and celebrate one another on this side. Now, we may have to take some L's, but we'll take those as a team, and we'll encourage our brothers and sisters for the next W. But we are going to see, this is what Pastor Dorian said. God Almighty, thank you, Lord. This is what Pastor Dorian said. We are going to see consistent and consecutive victories. It's winning season, but winning only happens when we run. We got to run, y'all. We got to continue to run. So that's it. I love you. Hey, continue to encourage each other that we run our races. Run our races. Find your lane. Listen, and whatever God has, whatever he has designed for you, wherever he has it designed for you, listen, run. It's good. It's going to be all right. You don't have to have the full plan. He called Abraham to go where Abraham didn't know. Abraham had no idea where he was going. So you're not always going to be familiar with the terrain on which you run. But if you're trusting the one who told you and the one who is guiding you, then just run. He's got it. He's not going to fail you. He's not going to lead you astray. He's not causing you to fail. He's not setting you up for failure. He's got you. That's who he is. He's a God that has never, will never, can never fail. That's who we serve. Right? And that word will remind you every victory he's won. So just run. Y'all just run tonight. And that's it. I'm done. I'm encouraging y'all. And hey, y'all see me? Tell me. I'm being so serious, right? Now, sometimes we can laugh and we can joke, but just tell your boy to run. Because sometimes I don't feel like running. Be honest. I just don't feel like it. I don't feel like having to press through whatever I got to press through that day. And sometimes we just need somebody to be like, run, bro. Keep running. If you keep running, I'm going to keep running. And that's enough. Run. I love y'all. Listen, again, just a reminder, this Saturday, 8 a.m. prayer, we will be online. So you definitely don't want to miss. We will be together for Saturday, 8 a.m. prayer. Again, Pastor Dorian will be leading us. And this is where we find our particulars, y'all. Right? Remember, I said earlier that there's a plan. There's an overall plan, a way the thing goes. But the particulars God gives. And he gives those in prayer. He gives those as we seek him. He gives those sometimes through others, but he gives those in those one-on-one conversations. So we have to, like Pastor Dorian said, we got to go further in prayer. She said that this Sunday. So we got to keep pushing, y'all. Okay, so Saturday, 8 a.m. we will be in prayer. And then Sunday, if you can be, if you are in the vicinity, if you got, a hoverboard, a skateboard, it's a little bit hard, bike in the snow, but whatever you got to do, if you can get in the building, get in the building, because we do have Apostle Charlie Howe III, who will be with us in the building all the way from North Carolina. And again, we had this man of God. He's been on the prayer line with us, and every time has been an absolute blessing. So I can't wait to see what God will do in physical manifestation and with him in the building. So you definitely want to be in the building if you can this Sunday. And then again, the giving information is on the screen for everybody. So don't miss an opportunity to give. Don't miss an opportunity to sow. The goal, right, is that we as KLM continue to run our race. Part of our race in our lane is continue to declare the good news of who Jesus is, continue to show people how and to discuss and to help us grow and mature and in our faith so that we can be good kingdom citizens. And we need help to do that. And that happens through the giving of the people, us. We are the church. So the giving information is there. Don't forget to give. And I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. It is good to be with y'all tonight in this capacity. I can't wait to be in the building on Sunday. So, Minister Vic, run. Miss Shirley, you continue to run. Miss Annette, run. Monica, I see you. Go ahead and run, girl. Atia, you run. Jocelyn, please keep running. Keep running. Miss Regina, Pat, y'all keep running. Tamara, keep running. Alicia, we're going to run. We're going to keep on running. We're going to keep on running, and we're going to see everything that God has said and everything that he's declared. That's all I got. I love you. I appreciate you. You all enjoy the rest of your night and have a blessed week. I will see you on Saturday.